Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Almost Anything Goes podcast, where we like to discuss some of the most controversial and compelling topics that come to mind. I'm Orvin, God's favorite for some of you who already know, and I'll be your host for today. Joining me are some special co hosts, some amazing women. First, we have Miranda, our resident Sparkle Joy coach.
Hello, everybody.
Next, we have the also fashionable Shenanigans Inc.
Hi.
And last, but certainly not least, the beautiful, we have the rebellious advocate, Marseille.
Hey, y'all.
Thank you for that. Those are very great points. And it's something that we've heard for those of us who've been to a Black church, turn your pain into purpose. So I like how you said that. I'm going to use that. I know it sounds horrible sometimes when you say it, but the
Yeah.
reality of it is some of the things that we go through can help propel us to get to another level, to cause us to actually grow, and you can grow from that hurt and that harm. So those were great points. And I want to piggyback off of what she said. She said, don't lose your faith in the process, even though the church might hurt you, the organization might hurt you, the synagogue might hurt you. We can't always go to those leaders. Sometimes it's a lost cause in certain situations to try to talk to those people, but having those people around you that actually support you, that can hold you accountable. Don't always talk to the people if you go back and say, look at some of our other podcasts, you can't talk to people that are always going to be like, yeah, man, look, I'm on your side with this, and people that are biased in situations. Those people aren't always good for all situations. Yeah, you need your ride or die, as we like to say, that's going to take the baseball bat with you sometimes. But sometimes you need that person that's going to remind you that at this point, you are not in a great headspace. Let's deal with the hurt and pain without forgetting the faith. We can't just leave the faith behind. We got to keep the faith in the process of dealing with our hurt and pain while we're dealing with the grieving. You have the permission to grieve. You have the permission to shout to the hills. You have the permission to tell whoever you need to tell, but make sure you have good ears listening that's going to give good advice in the process. Those are great points, Marseille. Anybody got anything to add?
Yeah, something I wanted to add too is don't be afraid to be angry. I have been angry at God many of times because of this church hurt. And because of that, and because of my crying out to him of I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm feeling all of these, honestly, that was probably some of the best therapy because then going back into the Bible, reading scripture, praying, all of these things, it just really grew my relationship with him. I don't know. There's so much I can talk about regarding that, but crying out, I think of the Psalms. It's a real thing. We have so many complex emotions, and anger is one of those. And I think of like Inside Out and things like that. Anger is a core emotion. It is something that's really important. It's just how do you use that? How do you take that anger and turn it into something else?
No, that's a really good point because a lot of people see anger and they just automatically assume it's going to follow by the sin. And you can be angry without sinning if we're talking about the Christian world. But before, Orvin, I did want to share or remind the people of what you said at the very beginning. And at the very beginning, it was listen, we all are not licensed therapists and all of that stuff. So you need to take all of this with a grain of salt, but you go get therapy, go get healing. Yes, we do love the Christian church and there are counselors there. I would still ask for their certification and don't be ashamed of asking for their certification. Like people, listen, we think, oh, we go to a church, there's some counselors there that we can't ask questions. Y'all need to start asking more questions, people. Ask questions. Where did you get your training from? Because maybe That's free and that's a service. So we don't want to knock it, but you also need to know, how were these people trained? Was it a 20-hour course? Not that I'm knocking a 20-hour course, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm not knocking a 20-hour course. I'm not. And I know I sound a little bougie, but we may want something a little bit deeper. And I understand everyone can't afford therapy, and that's just a problem within itself. But maybe you do want to go to your healthcare professional. Maybe your job has benefits. Go to your human resources professionals to ask, do they have particular benefits? Go ahead, Marcy.
Even Googling the different types of therapy and learning tips and tricks off of that. So, like cognitive behavioral therapy, there's so many resources online regarding that. And that's one of the main lines of therapy. I don't necessarily know that term, but there's Google, do your research. Do your research.
And then when people are coming to you all, like when you have a friend that's complaining, don't brush them off. I'm just speaking to the regular people right now. You know your friend that just talks about everything. And when they come and talk to you about their church hurt, can you listen and can you validate and can you not make them feel like something wrong with them? Okay. Listen to them. Validate them. It does not have to be your truth for you to validate someone else's truth. Okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox and I'm gonna let y'all have it. Go ahead, Orvin.
She has, and without telling too much of their business, like I said, we all come from different walks of life on this podcast, and we call her the Sparkle Joy Coach because she actually set more than 20 hours in her certification for her coach. So I need y'all to understand, if you're listening, we have certain certifications and credentials to say certain things. That's why she's pointing you in the right direction. I want to even add on to all of that because people like titles. I was in ministry. Yeah, I'm not going to throw no titles out there, but even in biblical school and stuff like that, if I had the book present right now, just to show you the first level of Christian certification, like the book is so thick, you would think it's Pride and Prejudice or something that you was reading. The manual was like ridiculous. So it takes a lot for the people that do help you, that want to help you correctly. But like she said, I love that she said that, listen to people, be a listening ear. You never know. People are counting on you to be that listening space, that safe space, that place where they can go and just vent. All the time, people don't want your answers. Sometimes they just want to be able to get it out and just be able to shout to the hills. And you might be that hill that day. So it's okay. I know we all have stipulations on how long we let people complain and all that stuff like that, but then that's another Christian thing. So anyway, moving on. Those are some great points from everyone. I appreciate that, Marseille. Stacy, let's head over to you. How can churches prevent church hurt?
Churches can prevent church hurt by, I would say, create an environment that is transparent. So transparency, the accountability that I talked about before. If you're a leader, know that you have certain deliverables and certain expectations that you might meet. Also, overstep your leadership role. Don't get creative and power hungry and things of that nature. And open communication. Oh, just open dialogue. Leaders should be approachable, willing to listen and listen to concern, listen to everyone. You don't have to treat everyone the same, but you treat everyone fairly. So forget about the cliques, forget about your favorite members of the church. Speak to everyone and give everyone that opportunity as well. It's also crucial to promote inclusiveness. So just because a person comes from a different background, walks and talks differently than you, and even dresses differently than you still have to be inclusive and ensure every member feels valued.
When
Absolutely,
Stacy,
absolutely. Go ahead,
I was gonna say, when
Miranda.
Stacy was talking, it reminded me when she started talking about transparency. How many of y'all heard this, especially y'all people, y'all Christians from the church? We'll show you the books. We'll show you the books. Can y'all
Oh,
stop
yeah.
saying you gonna show the books if we ask for the books? How about you just show the books? There are some churches that will literally each year show the books.
Mhm. Mhm.
Is start thinking and then you start wondering, is that manipulation? Because if you go ask, then you feel some kind of way. It's, oh, they're asking. Well, if you're going to promote transparency, be full and transparent in all of your ways. If that's what you're going to do, stop making people having to come in. Because to me, that's the look of transparency, right? We'll show you the books. Why? If you're going to show, just show them.
It's sure.
We give money to what we want to give money to in our lives. If you are a shoe shopper, we like shoes. If you like a marijuana habit, you buy marijuana. I don't know, whatever your habit is. I know I'm choosing that because some people got a budget set aside for how much weed they gonna buy this week. So I'm just being
Yep.
real and transparent on that this moment. Every organization needs no donations. Some of them need charitable donations. Companies don't run without money. That's what's
Mhm.
real. So I love the way that she said that stop trying to use it as a manipulation tool. Like, as- I'm one of them people. I don't have a problem with donating my funds when I want to donate my funds. I came from the church. I still believe in God, but I don't always like hearing tithes and offering messages. So that I'm just one of them people. But organizations do need money, but stop using it and stop trying to manipulate us in all areas, even with the leader, how we're talking about leadership in the hurt. Don't use certain things because look, I was told I was abused and battered. People will use certain terminology, certain things that they know affect you personally, especially when you get into the black churches or you get into the smaller churches where it may be only 100 people and you start hearing what you told minister so and so up in the sermon this weekend. And not saying it's always the case, just stop out there. You got to do your due diligence as people the people that are listening to us right now that experience church. You got to do your work. A therapist will tell you you got to do your work. A coach will tell you you got to do your work because people will try to use, abuse, and manipulate you. So you got to be very mindful, very careful, very perceptive, very discerning, very intuitive. You got to use all the tools. You got to pull them out the box. Absolutely, 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 Stacy. Miranda, I want to. Okay, the church finger. It is. We're
I
gonna talk
got
about
the
that church
church
finger.
finger.
There, but we people like to use that finger. That's an
I
excuse
got
me
the
finger.
church
Go ahead.
finger because listening to you and it just drew me back to something Marseille, the rebellious advocate, said on a previous podcast where she was just like, at church, you don't ever hear them talk about pornography really or selling sex and being able to help people through that. So I don't know, what is it, 6 degrees of separation? So that just reminded me, we've also talked about just in general, and you all know that I've spoke about boundaries a lot. Why don't churches I don't really remember in church hearing about healthy boundaries and what that looks like even within church, let alone outside of church. But you don't really hear about that. Or I can't necessarily, I'm not saying that they haven't ever done it, but that's not a topic that's really so that would be in terms of what even Stacy was given for the churches and things that we could do. How about we talk about healthy boundaries and what does a healthy boundary look like for a church member, for a person that is coming to your synagogue, coming to your temple, coming to whatever. Can we talk about some healthy church boundaries in these places? Okay.
I agree. I think those are the things that should come up in small groups and certain sessions. And I said sometimes ministers, leaders, pastors, preachers, teachers, or get up there and they're grounded on the book that they forget the balance from any organization. They forget the balance part of it. And that's where the boundaries come through, where you're not just living this one focused life 7 days a week. You have an entire life. You got other things you're dealing with. You have things, personal things you're dealing with at home. You have time management issues. These are the things that should be discussed. And yet they shy away from it. The only time you hear about pornographic issues or boundaries or something is in a testimony. Oh, I want you can't let people do certain things to you, and that's why you gotta have boundaries. Then it come up as a testimony time in church, and we get a finger like right now. So I'm gonna let you go, Marseille. But yes, that's the only times that people want to talk about those things that are scary topics, that are real life situations, real life issues. And I'm a stickler for needing, I'm gonna say, time management. I have a bad issue with my time. These are things that we need to help people with that coincide with the spiritual part of it. Go ahead, Marseille. You can jump on in there.
I was just gonna add on to what you said about when we do talk about those things that are taboo. Also, when leadership is caught doing one of those things and they have to come out and apologize or do some type of thing, that's the only other time.
That is true.
Right. And they only talked about it because they got caught. But I'm not going to lead us still bad, but you telling the truth. That is the whole truth. And that brings you back to the original thing of be mindful who you follow, be mindful of your leadership. And all of these leaders don't have the exact training. They haven't gone out there and got all the training. They've gotten the biblical teachings, and not even that on a paid level. If you ain't got to pay for it, is it real training? Like, I'm asking this
Okay,
question. If you
okay,
would
wait,
have
wait.
to invest your money, not just your time, if you didn't have to invest something of some tangible cost for this training, did you really get real training? But go ahead, Miranda.
Okay. I'm not saying that what you're saying is not accurate. I just want to do a caveat because there are people that are in the gospel or in whatever ministry setting because we know we've seen it ourselves and they have this training. But when you get a butt down and listen, y'all, if anybody is connected to me, I don't know why God does this to me. He allows me to get so many butt dials and pick up the phone and I'm like, oh my God. And most of the time I'm listening to make sure that I don't need to dial 911 or something like that. But when I recognize, oh, this ain't your conversation, girl, hang up. Because I will hear people, I have heard people cussing. I have heard ministers of the gospel say some stuff that they wouldn't want you to know that's what they say. And it sounded a little suspect and a little inappropriate to me. So I'm saying all of that to say, y'all, we don't know. And I believe in the church. I believe in whatever your faith is, your faith. I prefer you to put it more into that book and into whatever versus the man and or woman and they, whomever that may be. I prefer you to put it more into the spiritual aspect and not get so caught up in the religion because y'all, everybody is just not who they present. And sometimes they can present as great people, but you really just don't know. And again, I don't know why I'm the author. I don't know why my one of my coaches tells me all the time, that's a gift. And when God gives you a gift, you say thank you and you move on. And I have heard my own 2 ears. I would never rat you out, even if they watching. I go because that's not who I am. But I have heard some inappropriate things or things that you would say, that's how you feel?
And that's why
Right.
I don't have that gift, because we all know I would have aired about singing it from the rooftops. You would have
That's
told
right.
them.
God's going to give it
No,
to who's going to use it
okay.
correctly. I'm gonna throw two things in there because I did say something, and I gotta watch how I say certain things sometimes. Free training is still good training. I'm not saying that. I need people to understand that when I said that the greatness will cost you something is what I was trying to get
Mm.
to. I'm not saying that there are a whole lot of things that are free online, including Miranda. There are teachings and stuff that are out there that will help train you, but that is not the only form of training. I was just saying that it should cost you something. And yes, they should stick to the spiritual. But if in addition to what she's saying, if you claim to be this organization that helps people, like I was watching a church online this morning, and they do a love week and they go out in different communities and everywhere and help all these people in these organizations, and they raised $1 million. They done made over $100,000, 100,000 kits, and people were giving their testimonies about how they participated in Love Week and they were able to have children. They've gotten saved, and I'm just using the church for an example, not a synagogue. I'm just saying. So if you proclaim to do these things, then you need to help with the boundaries. You need to help with the balancing. You need to help with all of these other areas, and not only just get up there on Sunday, Saturday, whatever day your day is, and preach out of your book and think that's enough. It's not enough for people that are going through, that have real life, that live real life and have real life situations, and you just want to ask them for money. But anyway, go on. Stacey, you got something to say?
I was going to ask a question. Say you are just speaking to that 20-year-old that's looking to become affiliated with the church. How would you say that person would go about asking for what type of credentials should a solid, respect, established individual have to lead a church? Is it a certificate you're looking for? Is it a theological degree? What would you say would be some of the things to look for?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think surprisingly, I would start with word of mouth. That's where I would start personally because to everybody's point today, it doesn't every church or every place of worship can get started by different means and they could still be reputable. They can still be good places. And they could still be good places that have maybe had a bad thing happen or two. I need you guys to listen because even if you're watching documentaries, a lot of times your family is telling you
Mhm.
they right in that Kool-Aid mix. But you all won't listen to your family. And so I think when the spidey senses come up, I think you the now a lot of times I'm the first one that says, listen, do what you need to do for you. But when it comes to religion and organizations, I am only now more so in the mindset that no, you should probably give merit to what other people are saying. And so if you bring your grandmama to the church and your grandmama is baby, something ain't right. I can't put my finger on it. If your auntie is like, no, something ain't right. I think we should listen. And I think we don't. But we don't for many different reasons.
I can also speak to that. For me, one of my spiritual gifts that I've been learning about is discernment. And when I walk into a space, if something, like Miranda was saying, if something doesn't feel right, I'm out of there. So my last church, when I joined, it felt right. When I walked in, I felt loved. Like I felt loved, cared for, appreciated, all of these things. And I truly do believe that our gut feeling has a lot to do with it about what the right placement is. And also, I'm non-denominational, and in Massachusetts, there aren't many non-denominational churches. So there is a lot of church visiting that I've had to do. It's really going into church. All right, what do I feel about the worship? How do I feel about the people? How do I feel about the sermon? What's actually being told? Because I've been to churches where I'm just like, this isn't, I know, not that I know this, but there's nothing for me to grab and grow. I'm very big on growth. So if someone is teaching something and I'm not able to take anything from it, it's not for me in this season. And that's also another thing, is that it depends on the season you're in. The reason I left my church was because my season of growth in that time, it reached its limit. I had to move on to continue to grow. So there's just a lot about it, and also about the person. I like to be taught. I don't like to be preached to. I like to be taught. So I look for teachers more than I do preachers. It's things that I've just learned throughout my faith.
That was I love the both answers. That's two different generations right there. I'm going to add on from your question that it depends on the individual asking. The 20-year-old is asking, are you the type of 20-something-year-old that likes, that does their research, that does their background investigation? Because some people are just asking questions to be a device to go against something. Like, oh, I don't believe in your religion, so I'm going to argue against. I'm asking what type of background, what type of teaching what did you do? What did you go through to get to where you are? But some people really genuinely want to know because they want to know what they want to follow. So I appreciate the aspect that Marseille came from with saying you got to visit, you got to be open to going through these situations and checking out these places and finding out what's right for you in that moment. She went from an aspect of feeling, because you need to feel something before you feel something, if that makes sense in certain situations. Like, you don't just want
Yeah.
to go into a place and be like, oh my gosh, hallelujah. And that's what you receive. You like, I'm not staying here. That's not what I need for me. That's why so many different churches, organizations, synagogues, whatever, all around the place
How
that
how that
go.
while you're on that, that reminded me, I was just transported back in time about, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. I was looking for another school for my daughter. I was looking for a school for my daughter. I went into the, let me go check the church out. Walked into the, first of all, I walked in this little teeny tiny church, and there's nothing wrong with these little teeny tiny churches because I love little teeny tiny churches because this is gonna sound crazy what I'm about to say. But I was like, why are these Rolls Royces and these real these real expensive cars? Then I walked into the church, and it was a black, it must have been something like a Baptist church, because everybody had on these, like, white dresses and hats. Now, if you know me, I won't necessarily always dress up per se, like, I may wear jeans to walk into a church, and especially if I'm visiting, because I wanna know how you gonna treat me, because they come as young. So I won't always get super dressed up. I walked up in that church. I was sat in that church for about 15 minutes, and I was like, oh, I got to go. I got to go. My child cannot go to this school. So to y'all point, as far as, I think at church, they make us think we're not supposed to go with our gut, but it is okay. Listen to your intuition, y'all. Cause some of these churches, there are some beautiful churches out here. There are some churches that we need more churches just like that church or similar or whatever. But all these churches, I'm just saying.
And I agree. I'm open to learning. And what I was going to say, with addition to what Miranda was saying, with trusting other people, what the word of mouth of what other people say, because you asked what credentials should they look for. when you're doing your research, people not always going to tell you everything. Like you don't have always access to these major leaders in these organizations that you're following. So you're gonna have to do some of the legwork yourself and find out, oh, have they been through a marital situation where marital discretion? Oh, you got to find out, oh, did they go to a seminary school? Are they theologically taught? Like it depends on, that's why I said it depends on the person and what you're desiring when you go visit these churches, synagogues, or organizations. What is it that you want for yourself? Because that'll tell you what questions you need to ask, what credentials you think that this person actually needs. You're not going to know if they went through 10 years of Maxwell leadership training. You're not going to know if they went over here and they have their degree in psychology. You're not going to know all these things. So go visit the churches, listen to what you hear, do the research for yourself in the background, and also the book that they're reading from. If they're reading from the Quran, if they're reading from the Bible, if they're reading from the Torah, whatever Jewish book, whatever they're reading from, you need to read these books yourself. These people will help you. They're in a leadership position to help you be guided in your spiritual walk. But it's up to you to actually do the reading, do the layer work, do the studying to actually get your life in order. So that's the answer to your question. Marcel, you have something to say?
I was just thinking that I know there are also some churches, like some Catholic churches or Catholicism in itself. I know a lot of times they're taught to just listen versus do the research themselves. I know some Catholics who are like, yeah, I never read the Bible. I just read what was being taught to or given to me in mass and things like that. And I know that's difficult if you are being told by your leaders, oh, just listen to me, do what I'm doing and saying. Please don't do that. Don't do your research. Find out your faith on your own. And this is the same even when I think of as someone who was taught to be a Christian at a young age, grew up in a Christian household. Also, you need to find your own faith. That's a big thing too. I remember when I was like, Mom, I believe in Jesus on my own. So now I thank you for all the things that you've done for me, but I'm going to now search Jesus and God for myself versus just being under my parents' umbrella of religion. But that's also me. I care about religion. There are some people who don't care. And if you don't care, then it doesn't matter. But I did.
It's important to have your own experience.
I'm gonna share a little fact that people might not know. I was raised non-denominational Christian, and I had a Muslim mentor. So go figure. So I don't judge other religions. I had somebody that trained me as a Black male to grow up a certain way and to pick up certain habits, and I have adopted some of their habits personally, but I still believe in Jesus Christ. So you have to find that thing out for your own walk and for yourself and what you're going through. This is good stuff. We're going to wrap it up soon. Miranda, I want to ask you, what would you say to someone to help them that's currently experiencing church hurt?
I would say talk about it. I would say don't shut down. I would say you're not alone. I would say look into your religion. Again, whether that's whatever your holy book is, and make sure that, for instance, if you're a Christian, start speaking back what Christ would say to you. Not what you would say to you, not what your friend would say to you, but what would Christ say to you? Speak those words back. Those words will bring healing. Those words will help to re energize you, boost you, whether that's even in music. Listen to music that's going to do that as well. Christian music has gotten me through some of my darkest hours and just through a song. And so don't give up. Don't lose faith. It's hard when it's a person and that person represents a bigger thing. It's hard. But as you all have said thus far, it's about taking that challenge, and it is a challenge, and turning that into something that's beautiful. And so you can take pain and you can eventually turn that into beauty. And it could be beauty just to help somebody else. It could be beauty. A lot of things that happen within us, I believe it's for somebody else. And sit in it for a little bit. I'm not going to say it's not going to come up again because it will. But how do we change that? And how do we turn that into good? And don't give up and seek help. Again, help is so crucial. Talking about it. And if you need to talk to a professional about it, talk to a professional about it. Do what you need to do to make sure that you are healthy because your mental health is important. And honestly, if you don't have your mental health, I don't know what you have.
Good stuff. Anybody got
Yeah.
anything they want to add?
For anyone that's currently experiencing church hurt, I definitely, on top of what Miranda said, adding on, find people like minded because there are a lot of, especially in your religion, that's something I had to do, especially during the pandemic. I had to find a group of people who thought like I did, that were more progressive, that were more, I'll say more liberal in a way. Because if I didn't have that group, things would have been a lot different. So finding people that are like you, have gone through something to like what you've gone through. Again, people that listen, people who are gentle and soft. There's so much. Again, like I love to talk about these things. I love having conversations around religion, especially those who are deconstructing their faith and are finding that what I believe is different than what I've been taught, but it's still aligned with there are just different things that you need to search out for. And again, I'm big on research. I was taught to Google and YouTube everything. So that's just how my brain works, is that I need to search for things. So just don't give up searching and understand that Jesus loves you. If you're whatever God you serve loves you more than anything in the world. And humans are flawed. We're not perfect. We mess up. I mess up all the time. I have to apologize to my students all the time because I'm a human and I mess up. But that higher being you're serving, put all your faith into that. That's what matters.
Good
Well
stuff.
said.
Good stuff.
I think that the only thing I think Marseille and Miranda said a lot there. Just it's a remember the hurt is this is not end all be all. It's a temporary, it's your current state that you're in. You do have an obligation to yourself to, you mentioned, Orban, we put a timetable on how long you can complain about things. We do. This group does. We do because we take some accountability for where we are in our lives. Get help, like Miranda said. Make sure don't throw away your whole belief system because of this experience. Separate the two. Talk to people. This is not the end. You're just in the wrong room. Just in the wrong room.
That is so good. You're just in the wrong room because we all like to think as church people that, oh, that first church or that denomination or this denomination, just because it was my mama's denomination, must be the one for me. And it is so okay. So greatly said, Shenanigan is ink. Try another church. Try a different room. Try. I love that. Okay.
This has been a great conversation on the day. The rebellious advocate said we could talk about this forever. There are so many aspects, so many facets, so many doors that you can walk through that people need help with. I want to say, in addition to everything that was just said, finding the right room, finding your right support, trying out. It was so much. It was so full. Make sure you watch it in its entirety. Remember, you can reconcile your faith. You can still have faith in a higher being and a higher power. Even evil believes in something higher than themselves. So as long as you're going to serve something higher than you, you're going to look to something higher than you. Just make sure it's the right God. We are whatever right God is for you. I think earlier in the conversation, Shenanigans 8 said we're all trying to make our way to the same thing. We're just different, taking a different pathway to it. I personally believe, this is my own viewpoint, that we're all serving the same God. We're just taking different paths to get to him. I ain't judging you. Don't judge me. But if you are dealing with church hurt, make sure you get into a healthy environment, a good space mentally. Go find the therapy you need. Go find the right people to discuss it with, talk to. Don't close yourself off from your faith or your religion or from the world. Be open that it was a wound. A wound can be closed, it can be healed, it can be mended. If you're still here on this side of the dirt, you can get through it. So I want to encourage everybody who's dealing with church hurt that you still have the opportunity to get in a better space. You still have the opportunity to keep going in your faith, to go to another level, to grow from what you learn, that you can help others just like we're trying to help people here on today. We hope we giving you some peace. We hope we giving you some hope, some help, some faith. We gave you some hope, some encouragement, something to go off of during this conversation. We hope this discussion has been helpful in general. If you're dealing with church hurt, just know that you're not alone. Reach out to us on social media and share your experiences or ask for support so you can be guided in the right direction. Follow us on social media and join the conversation using the hashtag AAGP, Healing from the Church. I like that one. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast for more insightful discussions. Your feedback and participation means a lot to us. Thank you again for joining all of us on today, my beautiful, amazing co-hosts. These are some great, amazing women, and myself. A big thank you to Miranda, the Sparkle Joy coach, Stacy, Shenanigans Inc., and Marce, the rebellious advocate. On behalf of everyone, stay connected, stay strong, and thank you for all of your wisdom and experiences, because we all need to get over this church hurt. Don't forget to stay curious and keep exploring. From everyone here on the Almost Anything Goes podcast, we will see you soon.